Deadpool's Diner is the most generous a game mode has ever been in Marvel Snap. It honestly kind of feels like we're robbing second dinner a little bit. Let's take a look at the overview of the game mode, the most efficient ways to play it, and then some of the best decks in the format. The first thing to understand about Deadpool's Diner is the double reward tracks. Now, there are bubs, as is normal in Deadpool's Diner, and your snaps only count for your bubs, so you effectively get to play against the house, making bub acquisition fairly solid. But the currency you'll want to pay attention to is also nachos. Nachos are how you acquire danger and other cards in the nacho shop. But you get nachos by snapping 3 times in different levels of the game mode. For example, at the waffles level, 3 snaps is 10 nachos. At the Hellburger level, 3 snaps is 150 nachos. A quick look at the prices in the nacho shop can show you just how generous this can be. You're going to get a lot of stuff out of this. The way you want to prioritize playing Deadpool's Diner is getting your bub refresh limit as high as you can possibly get it. As you can see here, mine is at 60k max. Now, from there, all you do is go into Hellburger and snap as many times as you want. You keep snapping, you get 150 nachos for every 3 snaps, meaning even if you are as impossibly inefficient as possible, you will, every time you fully restore all of your bubs or that you need to enter, get at least 300 nachos. That's per rotation. You just go get your 300 nachos, win or lose, doesn't matter, get your snaps, and get on out of there. And as you can see, the nacho shop is pretty generous when it comes to those 300 nachos. This bub refill upgrade comes at 175k. But really, all you need to do is make your way up through the climb just to get to the point where you're getting even 60 nachos per. And as soon as you get to that last bub refill upgrade and you get to the ability to like play on Hellburger consistently, if there's like 4 days left in this, you don't have to do anything. You can just go in there, throw your snaps away, and call it a day. You will get danger and you will get more stuff on top of danger at the rate they've set this up. Thing is, there's something else. One thing that we have discovered is that the way they've set up these dual currencies doesn't account for the fact that one of them might be more desirable than the other. And what I mean by that is this. If you both snap a bunch, both players can get all 3 snaps, which will still count for nachos, and if the game somehow ends in a tie, neither player will lose the bubs that they used to enter the game. In other words, if both players snap, snap, snap on turns 1 through 3 and then retreat later in the game, that will be a tie. They will get their X amount of nachos for whatever roll they're on. For example, in Hellburger, that would be 150, and then they will be able to continually repeat this process as long as enough people are aware of it. To me, this is very similar to the conquest communism that we very often see with Proving Ground snaps, but I do think it comes with significantly higher rewards because this is a direct line to a bunch of ability to just purchase stuff that has value. Variants, and of course the card danger are much more easily acquired when doing this. I know several people are currently in the middle of developing like an emote code to signal this. I don't think it's necessarily my responsibility to broadcast all of that stuff, but I will let you know that this is a thing that is happening in the community in much the same way that it happened in Conquest Proving Grounds, and you should be aware of it. The other thing about this is I do think you could reasonably look at it and say that is win trading. I don't really see it as that different from the Conquest stuff, but I don't honestly know. I can't say for sure one way or the other, and I'm definitely not going to ask because I don't necessarily want them to tell me the wrong thing. So I will say I felt like it would be sort of journalistically irresponsible not to talk about the fact that this is there and you can use it to farm nachos if you trust whoever you're playing against, but also that it is a classic prisoner's dilemma. If you can't trust whoever you're playing against, they could very easily leave and take all the bubs, or just not retreat when you are retreating and take all the bubs. And that is an interesting dynamic that, as like a human being, I'm kind of interested to see play out in Marvel Snap. Will people be able to trust each other enough to do this? Because with enough trust amongst the members of the Marvel Snap community, this entire event could be trivialized. Everyone could have everything they wanted out of the Nacho rewards, get danger, get a bunch of other stuff in addition to that, but it requires trusting your fellow man. And I don't know if this community is up for that. In terms of playing the actual game mode the way it was intended to be played, I think largely what you're looking for are decks that are able to confidently snap later into the game. The way Deadpool's Diner is currently set up, your snaps are unique to you, and you only really have 3. So a lot of the time what you're going to be doing is looking for decks that can reasonably snap on turn 4, turn 5, and turn 6. So you want to have decks that you are very confident in by about turn 4. For me, this is largely meant clog, but it does impact the metagame in other ways. While there are plenty of decks that are generally viable and there are no ban lists and different rules making this game different from ladder, the incentive of having decks that you are more confident in earlier is very real. And I think that's largely why I've been playing a lot of clog. In a world where I'm seriously attempting to get as much out of this as I can, the goal is to maximize the value of my snaps as much as I possibly can. The reason for that is the faster you can get to Hellburger, the better. And you need bubs in order to get to the place where your Nacho snaps are worth more. That is generally the way I have approached this game mode. I want to get, let's say, about 200,000 bubs, and then the rest of it is kind of gravy from there, because I will simply be able to, every few hours, show up, snap, 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 throw away my stuff, get the nachos, and the nacho shop has all the stuff I actually want out of this game mode anyway. That said, it does meaningfully impact the metagame when a lot of people are thinking like this. So you run into a lot of people who are playing Mr. Negative. You run into a lot of people who are playing Living Tribunal. And that's the other reason why I was playing so much Clog and so much of this version of Clog. It's very good to be a Silver Surfer first steps into Debris gamer when that is what you're looking down the barrel of. That kind of stuff is extremely vulnerable to this. And so this is sort of the build that I have that is almost explicitly targeted at that kind of thing. That said, normal Clog I expect will do very well as well. Another reason I've typically enjoyed Clog strategies is because of decks like this, which are largely just going to get much, much bigger than whatever mid-range deck you feel like is going to be good into them. This is a deck taking advantage of the current patch, i.e. the fact that the tech cards are nerfed. So while there are no explicit bans in Deadpool's Diner compared to normal ladder, this is a deck that's also better on normal ladder. And in Deadpool's Diner, what it does is give you a very clear picture of what your turn 4, 5, and 6 will look like much later into the game. Another thing that I've noticed is I've enjoyed having magic, because I don't think that I don't love super committing early if I'm seriously talking about bub management and bub conservation. I want as much time as possible to use my 3 snaps. There's not really a good reason not to be snapping if you're serious about gaining bubs, or you're still in the part of the track where you need to work your way up to the point where you have like 200,000 bubs, the last Bub Mart upgrade, and you can just chuck all your stuff at Hellburger forever and get whatever you want out of the shop, and you don't have to care about winning anymore. When you do have to care about winning, Magic has been really good for me, because this is a card that lets you delay your decisions about your commitment until later in the game. I talked about snapping on 4, 5, and 6. Snapping on 5, 6, and 7 with a magic in there is also pretty good. Classic, or I should say Dakin discard, has done well in the context of the current metagame that I see in this game mode, which is largely a bunch of decks trying to go as big as they possibly can. I think that I like the addition of the Zola here, where I don't like it on ladder, specifically because of what I talked about with all of these decks are just trying to go as big as they possibly can. And Zola lets you go significantly bigger than the normal ladder version here. But I think a Bastion is a perfectly acceptable card to run here as well. This is a deck that is trying to do Dakin stuff. If it's not doing Dakin stuff, it's really not competing with the bigger things. But as a deck that has access to Bullseye, as a deck that has access to multiple deck-ins. Of all the combo decks, this has been the one that I have struggled against the most when playing Clog because of the fact that it can have no spaces left on the board, but still be able to effectively get rid of its cards, thanks to the fact that Bullseye is an activate, as opposed to a card you actually have to play out on the final turns of the game. That's scary. It's a real thing. And I think that being a combo-ish deck that is pretty damn good into Clog is a good spot to be in. You are a little bit smaller than some of the nut draws from some of the other combo decks, but it's not like you're that much smaller than them. And I think if you demonstrate a good awareness of where their points are going, you should be in those games as well. The real thing that bothers me with this deck is it's a little like if you don't do the thing, you're not really doing anything, right? And there are still people who are playing like normal mid-rangey decks that you can beat on points, and that's cool. But I do think they're becoming fewer and farther between, and that could be a damaging thing for this deck's position in the Deadpool's Diner metagame, such as it is. This deck is great on ladder. It's great in this game mode for, I think, what should be pretty obvious reasons, right? You have a lot of people who are like, oh, I know what my solution to this game mode is. It's to play a bunch of combo stuff. It's to play Mr. Negative. It's to play Zola in my Dakin deck. You know what really dunks on all of that is Mobius and Stardust. And this is and has been the best Mobius Stardust deck, full stop. I just did a video on it on ladder if you want like a serious breakdown of everything there, so I won't take too much time on this deck. I love it. I think it is awesome. I think it is extremely good. It is extremely good. I don't even really think I think it's extremely good. It's extremely good. And if you are sick of people doing combo BS to you because they just want to know about how confident their snaps are, they just want to be confident in their snaps early, you can beat them up very, very badly. Speaking of the things you beat up very, very badly, there's enough other things running around and frankly not as many people playing the Stardust Mobius deck that I think Hella's like a fairly reasonable choice here. Because again, when you're looking for a deck to play when you are seriously attempting to gain bubs, the thing you're looking for is snaps that you're confident in on 4, 5, and 6. That's the thing you're really looking for. And when you have a very clearly defined game plan, that is a very good space for you to find a deck like that. Hella is a very defined game plan, and I think it lends itself to this game mode because of the confidence you can have in what you do. In addition, there's not really an incentive for your opponent to retreat other than saving time, which I will say, when you're playing one of these decks and you have it really locked up, the faster you play, the better off you are, because Lord knows if people start roping games that I know they've won, it does start to get a little bit tiresome if the only reason for me staying in there is to make sure they get as much as they can out of it. Please play fast in these situations. It is definitely an etiquette thing, and it also will probably get you some extra bubs when you do. I have run into a truly shocking amount of Mr. Negative in this game mode, and I will say this, it hasn't felt incredible, but it is an extremely common deck that you should be extremely aware of, and it does have exactly the kind of profile you're looking for, snaps on 4, 5, and 6. That does happen. Here's the thing, though. I think Negative is too combo-y to be good for this game mode. This is a hot take, I think. Like, I get it. People are like, okay, I want a deck with a repeatable game plan. Here's the thing. Mr. Negative isn't a deck that snaps on 4, 5, and 6 nearly as well as it snaps on 2 and 3. And part of what makes Mr. Negative good in normal ladder is that there is only one snap, and when you get it off early, there's equity in that. But a deck like this in this game mode, if you don't get your thing to happen, you end up losing out on the chance to get that 4, 5, and 6 snap. Remember, so much of this is about measuring how much you're anteing for bubs versus how much you're getting for snaps. Effectively, how much am I risking in order to get these 3 snap quests done? And Negative, weirdly, is kind of not positioned well to figure that out. It's a deck that's built for 1 early snap and not a deck that's built for 3 later snaps when you're more sure of your position. And I think that's an oddity, but it is something that stands out to me about this list. It's not bad by any means, but the point of it on ladder is that you make up for the games where you don't draw Negative with the games where you do. And I don't know if that same risk-reward ratio matters in a situation like Deadpool's Diner. So TLDR. Your goal in this game mode is to get as many bubs as possible until you get that 4th bub refresh upgrade at about 175k. Once that happens, you just go into Hellburger and do whatever you want as long as it involves snapping. There are people who are working on developing a code for we both snap every turn 1, 2, and 3 and then both retreat on 4. I'm not sure if it'll catch on because I do kind of think there is a little bit of a prisoner's dilemma going on there, but there are people who are doing it. I think it's like a Deadpool or a Thanos and a Deadpool early or something to that effect. Like Thanos, the snap emote, and then Deadpool, the like that. I think that's what I've seen people do. I do wonder about like if that's actually going to matter, if it's going to catch on, or how much it'll overshadow how generous the mode is anyway. Like, even if you take that out, this is still a game mode where you play up to a certain point and then you effectively just farm it for free. Once you get into Hellburger with that refreshing up to the cap of 60k, all you do is, once you refresh up to 60k, you log on, you do whatever you want. You get your nachos as long as you snap. You go get 300 nachos every like 6 or 8 hours or whatever, and danger only costs 2,000 nachos, and the variants are in like the 300 to 400s range. You're going to be farming this. You're going to be farming things from this. It will be a lot of easy rewards out of the nacho shop here. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I've been KMBest and you've been phenomenal, and I will see you in the next one.